Adam Scher, my co-host for the last 3 years, as I continue to stumble over his name. I know it. Like I told you, I know it. I just can't. My brother-in-law's damn name is Shar. I can't get it right. I'm a buffoon. Anyway, we're happy to have you with us as always. Season winding down. Most teams have 11 or 12 games to play, but NBA DFS remains in full swing. Adam, it's March 20th. It's Wednesday. We've got ourselves 9 games. But can I just lament this whole Miles Turner thing last night? That really sucked, man. Coming into it, what do you have, 32 fantasy points after 3 quarters? Doesn't see the floor in the fourth quarter in a very competitive game. Whew.
Yeah, that wasn't fun.
No, he had the blocks too. Like, you're playing him for the blocks. He's got 5 blocks in 26 minutes. I think he came back for 20 seconds at the end of the game.
Yeah, he did. He subbed in, and I was like, okay, maybe I can get like one more stat and jump up like a pay scale on FanDuel, and didn't happen.
Didn't happen. Anyway, water under the bridge. Glad to have you here. We've got 9 games. Just before we start, Adam, since we do have quite a bit of injury news, the notable players out today: Anthony Davis, Dennis Smith Jr., Eric Gordon sitting the second of a back-to-back, Otto Porter, Justice Winslow, Kyle Lowry, Maxi Kleber, and then Noah Vonleh's doubtful. The big thing is Milwaukee, if Giannis plays, they have 9 active players unless they bring up one of the two-way guys. They'd have 9 active players, 8 if he doesn't play. So that's a pretty massive deal right there waiting on that news.
Yeah, and obviously we'll talk about that, but it's weird because normally when you have teams with that few guys, it gives you a lot of really, really good plays. But if Giannis plays, I'm not really there.
Well, that's why I'm saying the news on whether or not he plays is big, because if he does play, yeah, not as interested. Look, Budenholzer ran a 9-man rotation yesterday with Mirotic, but they also had George Hill. They didn't have. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there when we get there, but it's a pretty big deal. We're going to keep a close watch on that. Any news that breaks throughout the show, of course, as we always do, we'll be the first to tell you right here. All right, let's get it started, Adam. We'll start with Milwaukee and, of course, Cleveland. So what a perfect time to continue this conversation. The Bucks are 9-point favorites on the road, 227 total. So like I said, 9 players. I'm going to give you here's the players if Giannis is active, okay? You have Eric Bledsoe, Tim Frazier. I'm going from backcourt to center, point guard to center. Eric Bledsoe, Tim Frazier, Chris Middleton, Pat Connaughton, Tony Snell, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Ersan Ilyasova, DJ Wilson, and Brook Lopez. That's 9. Ilyasova's probable. Antetokounmpo's questionable. If you don't have Giannis, you have 8, of course, unless one of the two-way players, and I don't know about it yet, gets called up or brought up. But that's not a very it's not a lot of players right there. The question is, and we'll start with the Bucks, like you just said, and I share the same sentiment. If Giannis plays, it's really hard to give big minutes to some of these value guys that you would feel really good about in the event that he's out.
Right. If Giannis plays, because it can go a couple of different ways. It's why it's been so difficult, even when guys are out, to accurately project minutes from Milwaukee, because they have so many guys that can play different positions. And with Ilyasova probable, and if Giannis is in, I'm seeing some sites projecting DJ Wilson for 28 to 30 minutes, and I'm not really there. Like, I have DJ Wilson at 22 minutes. I think that you most likely see Tony Snell in the starting lineup in place of Mirotic. I think that he can pick up around 26 minutes. He was in foul trouble yesterday, so I'm not reading into the fact that he only played 17 or 18 minutes. Pat Connaughton, we know, can play a ton of minutes. Like, I have him projected at 28, but he could play north of 30 just like he did last night. I think that with Ilyasova back, if Giannis is in, I would lean towards the wings on the Bucks picking up extra minutes more so than another front court player in DJ Wilson.
Yeah, but even with Connaughton, like, even if you have Wilson at 22, what are you giving Connaughton in the case that Giannis plays?
I have Connaughton at 28 and I have Snell at 26. So
right, which isn't bad. But if Giannis is out, and mind you, Sterling Brown is still out, DiVincenzo is still out, Pau Gasol, for whatever that matters, is out. George Hill is out, and Malcolm Brogdon's out. So they are down a lot of guards, wings, and such. If Giannis joins them, then you can bump these minutes up significantly, even with Ilyasova being active, because you're taking 34 minutes off. And then you can get Wilson up to around 30. You get Connaughton up past 30. And then we have a totally different situation on our hands.
Yeah, for sure. You would get 34 minutes that basically are just going to DJ Wilson, or Ilyasova, Pat Connaughton, and Tony Snell. So because, again, we've seen that they don't give a whole lot of extra minutes to guys like Middleton, Bledsoe. I wouldn't expect that to be the case in a road game here against Cleveland. So I would keep them more or less in their normal range and just kind of split up Giannis's minutes to these other guys, which would make them, top values.
Right. All right.
Not to mention not having to play alongside Giannis.
Right. Yeah. It's a tough situation. Good. Here's the good thing. It's the early game. It's a 7 p.m. game. If it was in Milwaukee, it'd be an 8 p.m. game. That would kind of suck, but that's not the case. So hopefully we will get this news sooner than later. We already got, here's the thing. This is how you know Giannis is a legitimate, true game time decision or close to it, because everyone else has already been ruled in or out.
Right.
So,
it was kind of weird that we didn't get that news already, but I agree. It makes it feel like he actually doesn't know if he's playing.
So if he does play, well, by the way, if he doesn't play, we just talked about the cheap guys. If he doesn't play, I mean, Eric Bledsoe and Chris Middleton become very appealing as well. Let's not forget that Malcolm Brogdon being off, definitely helps on top of Giannis potentially being out. Bledsoe with Giannis off the court this year has been outstanding. Middleton with Giannis and Brogdon off the court is a 33% usage player with 1.38 fantasy points per minute. So, I mean, just a huge impact, not just on the cheap guys, but on these mid-range plays as well. I'd even throw Brook Lopez into the mix if we see Giannis out. He was phenomenal last night. If you listen to that, play some Brook Lopez on yesterday's deep dive, it probably didn't hurt. What are your thoughts on the mid-range guys here, the more household names?
So if Giannis is out, then all of them. If Giannis is in, then obviously they take a step back. But I still get, in my initial crunch on DraftKings, I got around 20% Middleton. I just think he's a little bit underpriced there. And, he has a guard and forward eligibility, which makes it easy to get him in the lineups. Bledsoe is fine, but the point guard position is just really deep. So I'm getting more Middleton than Bledsoe right now. I like Brook Lopez regardless of Giannis. I think you get north of 30 minutes from Lopez. I think it's a favorable spot. The only issue is that the center position is pretty deep. So it's, tough to really prioritize him.
All right. Cleveland side, we're still waiting on news. I'm thinking Larry Nance is closer to probable than questionable. Pretty sure he was he was at morning shoot around, and I'm pretty sure. I don't know if he was fully participating. He was? Yeah.
He was there, and then there was also a clip retweeted. I didn't listen to it, but the gist from the headline was that he makes it sound like he's going to play.
Okay, that's what I thought as well. So he's still questionable, but probably leaning a little closer to probable. Tristan Thompson, questionable. Kevin Love with that lower back contusion's also questionable. And Dellavedova, for whatever that's worth, not much, is out. Any interest in the Cleveland side of things today?
Getting some Chetty, just because, again, the forward positions aren't the best, and he is playing huge minutes. It is a pace-up spot. He's been playing reasonably well. So I got 13% of him in my initial DraftKings crunches. Got much less than that on FanDuel. But he's the guy that's showing up the most for me, just because of the minutes that he plays. Josh and I talked about Jordan Clarkson this morning, and he gives you a lot of upside at that price tag. So he's not someone that I mind in tournaments. I do like the idea of sprinkling him in some, but with Kyle Lowry being ruled out, we got Fred VanVleet at the same price point. We have Moutier at the same price point. So I ended up with less than 10% Clarkson despite the upside.
Yeah. Clarkson too. I mean, Kevin Love being back definitely hasn't helped Clarkson. I think I would have more interest in Clarkson if Kevin Love was out, just from a usage perspective too. But you're right. He is definitely discounted below Fred VanVleet in terms of appeal, but he's there if necessary. I think that's pretty much it for Cleveland. Don't really see any need to go to Djigic, really, regardless of who plays right now. I mean, he's just been incredibly ineffective, and his price isn't coming down. It's slowly creeping up, which just takes him out of play even more so for me. You want to move on to Orlando, New Orleans?
Yep.
All right. Magic, 8.5-point home favorites, 224 total here. There is only one game above 230 today. Kind of a lot of unappealing overall matchups. This one's pretty interesting. Magic ranked number 1 in defensive rating since the trade deadline. They've been solid defensively. Offensively, they're very, very pedestrian. On the other side, no Drew Holiday, no Etuan Moore, no Anthony Davis. We'll talk about Randall in a moment, but man, Nikola Vucevic at $9,500 on DraftKings, Adam. He's a 1.5 fantasy point per minute guy on the season. You're getting me at $9,500, and clearly Frank Vogel's running his guys for heavy minutes, with the Orlando Magic being 1.5 games behind the 8th seed Miami Heat on a night where if the Heat lose to San Antonio, distinct possibility, and Orlando as 8.5-point favorites win, they are only a half game back in the division. Huge game for the Magic.
Yeah, absolutely love Vooch, as does the field, I think, but got him in about a third of my DraftKings lineups on my initial crunch, got him in about a quarter of my FanDuel lineups. And, you mentioned the minutes. He's playing 35 minutes a night in competitive games. He's facing he's in one of the best, he's in the best matchup on the slate against a New Orleans team that's one of the fastest teams in the league and one of the least efficient defenses. Anthony Davis is out, so there's no semblance of any defense in their front court to slow Vooch down. It would be pretty weird and probably unlucky if Vooch doesn't have a good game here. The price tag is still reasonable, especially with the uptick in minutes. So getting a lot of him, the only thing that caps his exposure at all for me is the fact that there are a couple of other really, really good center plays.
Right. Yeah, Nurkic being one of them. We'll get to him momentarily. It'll be a little bit longer than a moment, but there are a few here that are firmly in play. I love Vooch here. There's really nothing not to like about him. From the matchup to the pace increase to the must-win game to the minutes he's been playing down the stretch to the fact that how many times have we said this, but it's still relevant today as it was a week ago and a month ago. Only player in the league with a usage rate, assist rate, and rebound rate above 20%. Like, you'd really have to dig deep to find something you didn't like about Vooch tonight.
Yeah, that and like all I can get to, at least if someone like forced me to talk them off of Vooch, would be ownership and the depth of the position. But
right.
It's not a spot where I'm looking to take a stand and not be on Vooch.
Right. Like you said, yeah, ownership, positional depth. Aside from that, though, it's real tough. Thoughts on Aaron Gordon, DJ Augustine, who's playing more minutes and playing solid minutes and actually hasn't looked bad, but his price has gotten to a point where you pump the brakes a little bit. 55 on FanDuel, 53 on DraftKings, a little bit more palatable on FanDuel. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Aaron Gordon here alongside Vooch at a pretty decent price?
Yeah, Gordon, a much better play for me on FanDuel than DraftKings. I'm basically getting to none on DraftKings at 7,200, but at 7,500 on FanDuel, I have him as my highest owned power forward right now. It's just an appealing price point. It is the type of game where I like going to Gordon because it's a pace-up spot where he can use his athleticism. There should be plenty of rebounds for him. There's not going to be much defense played. There's just a lot working in his favor. So, really like him on FanDuel in particular.
Yeah, so do I. Anything else here from Augustine to basically the rest of this Orlando team? I think the front court's obviously and easily the most appealing, but let's cover everything because that's what we try and do here.
Yeah, I think Terrence Ross is another good play. Just, the second highest usage guy on the team. He is also getting in a lot more of my FanDuel lineups than DraftKings lineups since you have to roster 2 shooting guards. And it's just a really weird position today where you have a few really good plays at the top, but it's not as deep as it normally is. So getting some value there with Terrence Ross is pretty appealing.
On the other side, Julius Randle this season, without Anthony Davis, Drew Holiday, and Mirotic. I didn't include Etuan Moore. If you wanted to, you can. It doesn't make a huge difference. 34.5% usage, Adam. Rebound rate, 12.2%. Surprisingly low, but that's yeah, whatever. Not worried about that. 24% assist rate. All of these guys are off the court, or well, one of them is hurt, and he's not on the team anymore. And Etuan Moore is also hurt. The interesting thing here is take these numbers and then consider the fact that outside of Elfrid Payton as a distributor, the offense is running solely through Julius Randle. Frank Jackson has the second highest usage rate on the team in these conditions with these guys off, and that's at 20%. So I don't know. We haven't talked. I don't know where you are on Randle, but I can tell you one thing. He is certainly going to see an absolute heap of opportunities tonight, although the Magic have been playing very solid defense lately.
He's another one that I'm getting a lot more of on FanDuel because, like Josh and I talked about this morning, the power forward position, like the shooting guard position, is just really weird in that there's not a lot of really clear-cut plays. So I got Randle in like a quarter of my FanDuel lineups, very little on DraftKings because you can, slide more of the small forwards down. You can play center as a power forward, etc. In addition to it being a difficult matchup with Orlando, the one thing that I would point to that scares me a little bit on Randle is that after he played huge minutes in the first game of their back-to-back, I guess 3 games ago now, they had said that he was going to be limited to around 30 minutes in the second game. He played 32 in overtime. We didn't know how that was going to translate going forward. He played 34 minutes in regulation last game, which is good, but he also did not play at all in overtime after closing out regulation. So it makes me think that there's not really more than 34 minutes available here for Randle, which, it's just something to keep in mind. Obviously, he's very, very good without Davis or Holiday on the floor. So I am getting a lot of him on FanDuel, but I think that's just worth pointing out.
No, it's very much worth pointing out. Did you not see what Alvin Gentry did against the Suns in overtime?
Which game was that?
The overtime loss. They were up by.
The timeout game.
Yeah, they were up by 3 points. Gentry. So Phoenix, with a couple seconds left, I think it was like 1.5 seconds left. Instead of fouling Josh Jackson, putting him to the line, making it so there's no way he could tie it, they let him get the shot off. He makes it. And then Alvin Gentry goes to call a timeout on the inbound, doesn't have one, gets the 5-second violation, turns it over, gives Devin Booker a free throw that he makes. They go down by 1, and then Gentry calls another timeout after just learning that he didn't have any. I mean,
and also they fouled. I think it was Booker on the inbound when they were up by 2 or when they were up by 3. They fouled Booker. They weren't in the bonus yet, and then they didn't foul Jackson.
Correct. Yes, exactly. Like Gentry, it's like, wait, we don't want to lose. Yes, we do want to lose. Wait, we don't. Yes, we're going to tank. We're going to lose. And then on the other side, Kokoschkov's like, shit, man, how do I compete with this? He's trying to lose too. I mean, what an absolute mess that was. But no, I think you raise a good point. I have Randle projected for 32 minutes. I feel okay with that. But yeah, I would say you get a lot higher than that, it gets sketchy. I do know this though. For whatever time he's on the court, again, he's going to have just Goliath usage. And really, who else? Kenrich Williams? Sure, Frank Jackson, but Elfrid Payton's not a high volume scorer. Like, it will run through Julius Randle. It's just how many minutes will he get? Any other players you want to talk about as far as the Pelicans go? Kenrich Williams is 41 on DraftKings. And then you have this mess of a front court with Davis out, with Diallo and Okafor.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting Diallo in quite a bit of lineups on both sites just because he is so cheap. I don't feel confident in his minutes. He has played 25 and 27 in the last 2 games. I have him projected for 24 tonight. I have him at about a point per minute. I think that he's probably blowout proof, which not that I'm projecting a blowout. It just, kind of takes a little bit of risk out there. He's cheap enough with enough upside that I'm getting there. I feel better about him than I do guys like Hezonja or Shaq Harrison, which is basically our value options right now. So yeah, it's the Magic. It's the spot where a lot could go wrong. They did also just waive Jason Smith, which I actually thought he was going to pick up some minutes here. So that is one more front court body that's out for the Pels.
Yeah, Diallo did play the entire overtime period last game, and he didn't against Phoenix. Although against Phoenix, he did see like 16 straight minutes in the second half. How many? What are you giving him today? How many minutes?
24.
Yeah, I have him at 24 as well. So what do you have Okafor at? Let's try and figure this one out.
I have Okafor at 18. I have Diallo at 24. I had Jason Smith at 6. So
Okay.
those are 6 minutes that I have no idea where they're going to go, but I don't really care.
No, I had Jason Smith at 9 minutes, so that it's not a lot, but it's enough to where if a couple of those go to Diallo or whatever, then it makes it interesting. What are your thoughts?
They did sign Christian Wood though, so I don't know if Christian Wood's there or not.
Yeah, I know Woj had just reported that. I'm curious if he's going to play though.
Right.
I don't know.
Like normally I assume no, but then we saw that time with Milwaukee where they announced like after lock that they had signed Isaiah Cannon and then he played like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I guess we'll assume that he is playing.
The point is like those minutes can go to any. Like I'm not giving them to Okafor. I'm not giving them to Diallo. Like they can go to any combination of guys.
Right. It's not exclusively going to one player. Although I will ask you, do you have anything? Okay, let's say Randall plays fewer minutes and we do see Alvin Gentry cut him back to like 30. Do you see those going specifically to Diallo? Or do you see, maybe 4 or 5 minutes just being thrown around anywhere too? Because you have Smith's minutes and you have potentially 4 or 5 from Randall.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have Randall at 34 minutes, but
okay,
if he played less, I assume it would go to Diallo. But
that's what I would think too.
It's not safe to make those assumptions when you're talking about a team that doesn't care at all about winning and when they have a ton of guys that could play.
Right. Yeah, and Randall didn't play in the overtime period last game. Diallo did.
That's why I feel like he's really like hard capped at 34 minutes.
I agree with that. That's probably the best way to put it. Elfrid Payton's got to a price point now where I'm okay just avoiding him. Even though he's been outstanding. Do you have anything to say on him or Frank Jackson or Kenrich?
No, I agree with you there. I have Peyton projected for like 41 points, but on this slate, that just doesn't do it. So at 8K against Orlando, if Peyton goes out there and he's the highest scoring guard in the upper mid range, then I'm just not going to win tonight.
So be it. All right, we'll move it on. Philly, Boston. Truly the Sixers' kryptonite. Yeah, this has been a very difficult matchup for them. They've won 5 straight games. They're 7-3 over their last 10. They now have a 2.5 game lead for the 3 seed in the East. They're playing really good basketball right now. There's no denying that. Joel Embiid sat yesterday. He's playing today. They are 3-point favorites. They're always favored against Boston. They just never beat them. I think Philly wins this one. I think they're 0-3 in the season series. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I think they get a win here tonight. Nevertheless, it's going to be close. I'll tell you what, though, if we want to start with Boston here, Al Horford's averaging 28 minutes on the season. He's averaging 31.5 minutes per game against Boston. That's not a coincidence, or against Philly. That's not a coincidence because he is an excellent, savvy, disciplined defender when it comes to Joel Embiid. And the biggest reason for that, Adam, is because Al Horford does an excellent job of not biting in the post when Joel Embiid's backing him up to the basket. Al Horford does a great job of not taking those fouls that normally get Embiid, 12, 15 trips to the line every night. $5,900 on DraftKings, power forward eligible. Horford's a pretty interesting guy for me tonight.
Yeah, I really like Horford. You mentioned that he has had success and they need him against Embiid, but even beyond that, we've seen more often than not in competitive games between, a couple of playoff teams, especially if it's, the Eastern Conference teams, that Horford suddenly gets a bunch of minutes. Like he played 35 minutes last game against Philly. He played 30 the game before that, but he was 1 or 2 games removed from being injured. So I expect, I'm not projecting 35 minutes, but I have him at 32 and I feel perfectly fine about that. He's basically a point per minute guy in a perfectly reasonable matchup. I like the power forward eligibility on DraftKings, obviously. I like the price tag on FanDuel where most centers are relatively expensive. So yeah, I think a really good spot for Horford.
I'm with you. What about the rest of this Boston team? Irving, Marcus Morris. Gordon Hayward's out, by the way.
Yeah, everyone else kind of turns into a secondary play for me behind Horford. Irving clearly has a lot of upside, especially at 9,100 on DraftKings. Philadelphia has struggled to defend pick and roll this year. Kyrie, not the highest frequency pick and roll guy, but one of the most efficient. We've seen Philadelphia struggle with ball dominant guards all season long. There's a lot to like. It's just that on DraftKings, where he is more favorably priced at 9,100, you really have to compare him to guys like 10,000, 10,300 Westbrook. You have 8,900 Luka, 8,800 Lillard. It's really tough for me to prioritize Irving over those guys with any sort of frequency. You get, Marcus Morris playing big minutes. Jaylen Brown has the opportunity to approach 30 here. So getting to those guys a little bit is fine, but nothing that I'm prioritizing outside of Horford.
That's where I'm at as well. And you know what? Honestly, with Philadelphia, I'm not prioritizing anybody. Is there anyone that you're Look, I know Embiid at that price is really not a bad price point at all. Monster game against Milwaukee. 40 and 15 and 6, 79 fantasy points. He can do that, and we've seen him do it plenty of times. With Vooch at 9,500, we'll get to Nurkic, a few other centers. I just can't find a way to get to Embiid when I know that this has been a very, very difficult spot. I'm usually not a guy that says, oh, this matchup, whatever, but this is one specifically where Brett Brown can't seem to figure out how to run the offense against Boston. And until he figures out that Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler would probably be good guys to get more involved when Simmons can't get into the paint and Embiid struggles against Al Horford. Maybe today, we'll see. But yes, this is a Philly team that I'm probably not getting much of at all.
Yeah, and so in addition to, you pointed out that he struggled in this matchup, the thing for me that makes me feel, I guess, kind of good about not having Embiid at $10,000 is I have him on DraftKings. I have him projected as the fourth highest scorer on the slate, but he's still not getting into any of the first 150 lineups I crunched because of how deep the position is, because you have Vooch, because you have so many inexpensive centers. And then on FanDuel, obviously, he's much more expensive. So on one hand, it's like I feel like
Oh, well, it looks like we lost him for the first time since I've been producing this show, so that should be fun. We'll wait for him to come back. Anyway. Oh, are you back so soon? Nope. All right. Anyway, we'll wait for him to come back, which you should do. Larry Nance is available to play, by the way. With that news rolling in, Larry Nance is active. Tristan Thompson is active. And Kevin Love. You back this time for good?
Yeah.
All right. That was a quick return. Usually it takes you way longer.
Yeah, no, I didn't lose internet. It just froze. And then as I came back, I was refreshing the page. So then I left again.
All right. Josh was about to scramble and come in. Yeah. So Thompson, Nance, and Kevin Love are all back. You dropped off basically just talking about having no. Josh is coming. We're good.
What's going on? Bro. Never mind. Never mind.
Dude, this guy is always working. I mean, seriously.
I'm here.
Always working. What do you think about Embiid, Josh? Easy fade?
I don't have any on either site.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
And I don't feel good about it. And I think that's what Adam was about to say before he, I don't know, kicked his 56K modem. Good luck, guys.
Are you on live before lock?
Neither do I. I have no idea what that means.
All right. Peace.
Later.
All right. Yeah. Well, dude, he's always there when you need him. Isn't that the case? Always there when you need him. But is there anyone else outside of Embiid? They have a fully healthy roster. Even Boban is healthy. So, which, by the way, can we just brief? I won't spend a lot of time on it. Boban played 10 minutes last night. Bolden played 11 minutes last night. Amir Johnson played 17 minutes. So Brett Brown clearly had no problem getting a bit unorthodox there at the 5.
Yeah, for sure. And people still play Boban, and I still managed to lose money. So good job on my part.
Oh, man. Yeah, DJ Wilson, 31 minutes, 9 fed. That was just brutal. If you told me that I was going to get 31 minutes from, which we did, and that would happen, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, is there anything else here in Philly that you're interested in?
Nope. Much more appealing real life game than fantasy game for me.
Yes, very fun game to watch. National television too, if you don't have any type of viewing package. Let's talk New York Knicks and Utah. DeAndre let me down a bit the other day. I was willing to roll the dice on him in some spots because he had been playing well. Second on the team in potential assists per game since Dennis Smith Jr. went down. The Knicks, though, got blown out. They were down like 30 points at halftime, something outrageous. 11.5-point dogs today at Madison Square Garden, 209 total. Right now, we know Dennis Smith Jr. is out. Frank Ntilikina is still questionable. Noah Vonleh's doubtful. I mean, is there anything you like here? I guess we have to talk about Mario Hezonja, but not a great matchup.
Unfortunately, there's more than just Hezonja that I like here, kind of. It's going to be way more time than I intended to spend on the Knicks, but Hezonja, obviously is still 3,700 on DraftKings, played 36 minutes 2 games ago, 27 last game. Terrible matchup, but he's inexpensive and we don't have a lot of value. It's basically him, House, Harrison, Diallo. So there's a lot of risk on any of these guys. Hezonja at 3,700, I think is perfectly fine. Moutier is cheap on both sites. There's a lot of risk there. There's also plenty of upside for his price tag. It's a bad matchup, but I am going to play some Hezonja just because of the price. But then also site dependent. Kareem Allen on FanDuel is 3,500. Should play around 24 minutes. Should, being used very loosely because it's the Knicks. But if you get like 24 minutes from Allen, he's a perfectly fine, drop guy in some lineups. And then DeAndre Jordan is priced nicely on both sites. It's much more difficult to get to him on FanDuel since you can only roster one center. But 5,700 on DraftKings,
Yep.
I have him projected for 27 minutes, which is about as low as I can reasonably go. And I have him projected as like he's getting into a ton of my lineups. So I don't like the matchup, but I do like how he's been playing for New York. I do like the minutes that have been there for him lately. It scares me, but I don't really know what to do about it.
I know. I wrote him up in today's deep dive as well, just because, he really is. He's super discounted, man, and he's averaging around 8 potential assists per game over his last 4. For a big man, for someone that's not bad. Outside of Moutier, who do they have? The answer is nobody. He played. How many he played? God, against Toronto. What did he come?
He played 19 minutes in the first half.
What's that?
He played 19 minutes in the first half.
Yeah, and then he played 1 minute in the second half.
Right. They line changed in the third quarter when they went on 8-0, or when Toronto went on 8-0 run immediately.
Yeah, a minute into it, they were down by like 33 points. They yanked them, and then they went down to 38 points. So, just a terrible, terrible game. But huge minutes, man. He played the whole second quarter. And that's kind of the thing, which is why I like them against Toronto. It obviously didn't work. It backfired. But here's the thing, man. He's played 31 minutes or more in 3 straight games, or he had in 3 straight games. He was well on pace to exceed 30 minutes last game had it not been just an embarrassing disaster. So, there you have it.
I have him projected for as few minutes as I reasonably can at 27. I have him projected with like the lowest rates that I could since going to the Knicks. Like I didn't use his smaller recent games where he's been, really, really good. I used the entire sample, and I still am getting him in like 30% of my DraftKings lineups.
Right. Yeah, I know. I don't know what to tell you. It's kind of tough. And then, like you could project with Dennis Smith Jr. off. That's tough to do though because of Moutier. Moutier was out for a while. But DeAndre Jordan since coming to the Knicks is, what is he? 1.27 fantasy points per minute. That's since coming to the Knicks. Like you said, project him for less than that, and he's still going to pop up. It's 5,700 is just really, really cheap. So not a great matchup. Rebounding wise, not great against Gobert, but he's so cheap and is involved as a playmaker that I think you can do a lot worse than Jordan. Are you Achilles just asked us if we would please publicly bash Emmanuel Mudiay. I mean, look, dude, if you want to bash Mudiay, you bash everyone on that team outside of, I guess, Hazonia was okay last game. But, I mean, the whole team, it was just a putrid effort.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about Mudiay. He's not great at basketball. He's really unpredictable. It's a bad matchup. He's also free.
Right. I have a tough time on the other side getting to Gobert or Mitchell is down to 7,800. I mean, maybe you have some thoughts there. Ricky Rubio is sub 5K on DraftKings. Played 27 minutes last game, which is a step up from what he'd been seeing. Where are you at on the Jazz?
I like Rubio on DraftKings a lot. He played 27 minutes last game, like you said, but Utah blew out Washington in that game. He lost 3 or 4 minutes at the end. I think that he is clearly – I think he can play 30 to 32. I obviously don't know that this game will stay close enough, but at 4,900, I think that the upside is at least there. And he's cheap enough where even if he plays 25, 26 minutes, he probably will be fine in this matchup. So I do like Rubio on DraftKings.
Sounds good to me.
From Utah.
What's that?
I said that's about it from Utah, though.
All right, let's talk about Washington and Chicago. In Chicago, Washington is a 2.5-point favorite, 231 total. This is the highest total on the slate right now. Should be close. It's also the second time these teams have played each other since the trade deadline. For all of you that are, licking your chops for some type of revenge, already happened. Not that it makes much of a difference anyway. Otto Porter is out for this one. Zach LaVine is going to play. We'll start with the Bulls here. Look, we know one thing. The Wizards are a very good matchup for opponents. That is for sure. Lauri Markkanen has scored under 20 points in 9 straight games. He has single-digit rebounds in 8 of his last 9 games. If you can't get back, I said if you couldn't get back on track, it's not like he's had bad matchups. Phoenix, Sacramento, Clippers, Lakers, those are his last 4 matchups. What do you think's up with him? Is it fatigue? Is he just struggling? Because it's been a rough go for Lauri Markkanen, who gets his 5th straight quality spot.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all that. I mean, the minutes have been down. His effective field goal percentage since over the last month is 40, or since the start of February is 44% compared to 50% for the season. So clearly just not shooting well either. Rebounding's been down, like you said. But the thing also is that the price tag is dropping really quickly. So I am projecting him for 32 minutes instead of 35 or 36. Didn't get a lot of him on DraftKings. Got around 20% right now on FanDuel. I'm fine with that just because the matchup's so good.
All right. Yeah, it is. Okay, let me ask you this. Lauri Markkanen or Aaron Gordon, basically the same price on DraftKings and FanDuel. They're $100 separate. Gordon's $100 more on each.
Yeah, I don't really have either on DraftKings. I have more Gordon on FanDuel.
Okay, there you go. Well, that makes more sense. Shaq Harrison. Rabashua asked us a question a few minutes ago saying, how confident are you in Shaq Harrison's minutes? If he continues to start, I'm pretty confident in it. The question I don't think is how confident. I don't think the question should be how confident are we in his minutes. I think the question is how confident are you at 38% ownership on DraftKings and 33% on FanDuel, Adam? Frank Ntilikina is officially out, by the way.
Cool. So
is Noah Vonleh.
Okay, so yeah, that's good at least. That's 2 less people. So here's the thing with Harrison for me. I think that he is clearly a perfectly fine point per dollar value play. It's the kind of matchup he should do well in. Fast-paced game against Washington. He can pick up defensive stats. He's really cheap to a point where it's very difficult for him to actually let you down once you factor in what he opens up for you in your lineup. I do think that him being in the starting lineup is bad for him on a per minute basis. He has a sub 10% usage rate alongside Zach LaVine this season. When he comes off the bench, he's at 14, 15%, and his assist percentage jumps to 16%. Alongside LaVine, his assist percentage is below 10%. His rebounding percentage is below 10%. He's basically just out there playing defense. So that's not the kind of guy that I really want to roster at high ownership in tournaments, because even if he gets me like 20, 21 points and is a good point per dollar play, I can probably get better from just rotating through other guys that people aren't playing. So I am pretty confident I'll be under the field on Shaq Harrison.
Yeah. I mean, look, being in the starting lineup, I'll be honest with you, I don't even yes, it hurts him. It does, but it's not like he's filling in for a small forward anyway. Not a point guard. So playing off the bench as a 3 or playing in the starting lineup as a 3, he's already an unproductive player that's not going to get many ball handling duties anyway. Point being, I don't think it hurts him as much as it would hurt a lot of other guys coming off the bench or starting, just because he's already not very productive as it is. You're kind of just hoping that in a significant pace-up spot against the Wizards at a cheap cost in 30 minutes, that he falls face first into some stats.
Yeah. For the season, he's averaged 0.63 DraftKings points per minute when Zach LaVine's on the floor.
Yeah. And without, what is he, 0.81 or something?
I think he's like mid-point. I think he's like 0.75, somewhere in that range. I'm pulling it up now.
So nothing extraordinary anyway. It's really like Jay Goods in Slack asked us, what is the Shaq Harrison love about? Adam just said it, but it's very simple. He's cheap. He's in a fast-paced matchup against a bad defense, and he's probably going to play 30-plus minutes. I mean, that's it. If the ownership concerns you, then Shaq Harrison is undoubtedly a decent guy to get away from. I'm not going to argue with.
0.83.
What's that?
0.83 without Zach LaVine.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Okay.
Yeah. So 0.2 of a point per minute.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's significant. I'm just saying what I'm saying is with off the floor without Zach LaVine, I would imagine most of that's off the floor without Chris Dunn as well, and he's handling the ball more often than he would be. I don't know.
Yeah, my point is just so I have him projected for 30 minutes. If I give him his rates without LaVine on the floor, I would have him projected for 27 DraftKings points. Right. Giving him his rates with LaVine, I have him projected for 20.
Right. I got you. All right. Anyway, do you have anybody else for the Bulls?
I mean, LaVine, I think, is a good play. Really, really crowded position makes it tough to get there, but I'm not going to be upset with whatever LaVine I get to.
LaVine, or I believe you don't have much of either. Donovan Mitchell and LaVine are the same price on DraftKings. Do you have any
Mitchell
opinion
ahead
there?
of LaVine.
What's that?
I have Mitchell ahead of LaVine.
You have Mitchell ahead of LaVine. Okay. 88 on FanDuel, and LaVine on FanDuel is 83. Do you have LaVine ahead of Mitchell there, or neither?
It's not loading. I think I have LaVine ahead. I think I have LaVine ahead where he's cheaper.
Okay. Washington side of the ball. Bradley Beal leads the league in minutes since the deadline, almost 40 minutes per game. Before I even get into anybody else here, let's just start with Beal. He's 9,400 on DraftKings. He's 10-3 on FanDuel, but Luka Doncic is also shooting guard eligible at 9,900. So, one, are you on Beal? And two, do you draw a distinction between sites today?
Yes to both questions. Getting basically none at his price tag on DraftKings because of how many guys there are around him that project really well. On FanDuel right now, he's my highest owned shooting guard, just ahead of Luka. So, yeah, big difference for me because of just roster construction, even though the price tag on DraftKings in a vacuum is really appealing. The matchup's appealing. I have Beal projected over 50 points. It's just that I have a lot of people projected over 50 points on DraftKings, and they're all underpriced.
Right. Yeah, it's look, last game was terrible, but it was a blowout, and he's going to get right back up to playing big minutes again today. Now, I will say they are no longer even competitive for a playoff spot. They are 4.5 games back of the Heat. But what are you going to do? That's why when we come to this next player, Trevor Ariza, let me just ask you up front, how many minutes do you have Ariza playing today?
32, and I can't justify going any higher than that. I could definitely argue for going lower.
Okay, exactly. I actually asked Josh this question earlier today. He's a very difficult player to project his minutes tonight, at least for me. I've had a very difficult time. If I project him at 32 or 33 minutes, he's going to pop up in a ton of my lineups. If I don't and I bring him lower, it's a totally different story. Now, his minutes have been all over the place lately. There have been some blowouts. It looks like, he's been dealing with the nagging injury at some points as well. It's logical to assume he gets over 30. But here's the question. With the Wizards entirely out of playoff contention and Ariza always being the guy at the deadline that comes over to help you make that final push and play 38 minutes per game, I wouldn't find it crazy if Scott Brooks doesn't give him the minutes and just gives it to, a few of the guys that have been seeing him off the bench, like, Tony Brown or Troy Brown, or somebody else. I am really not confident in Trevor Ariza's minutes tonight, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with where I am right now. Like having him at 32 minutes, I got him in like 15 to 18% of my DraftKings lineups, which
sounds about right.
I'm perfectly fine with. I'm not getting their own FanDuel because he's not $4,600 on FanDuel. So yeah, like I'm perfectly fine with that. It's not a spot where I'm looking to jam him in over the field, but I also think that 4,600 is a pretty fair price.
Right. Yeah, that's what it comes down to. If you get 32, 33 minutes from Ariza, you feel pretty good about it. Could he play 26? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with his minutes tonight. It's really tough to say. As far as the rest of the Wizards go, do you have any interest in Portis or Satoransky or Parker, anybody we haven't talked about?
Yeah, I have a couple guys. Satoransky on DraftKings, I love at 5,600. Have him at 36 minutes. Have him projected for just shy of a point per minute. I think the price tag's just too low. And he's playing really big minutes. So point guard, shooting guard eligibility helps there also. Getting a lot of Jabari Parker on FanDuel and actually a lot of Parker and Portis on FanDuel. Their price tags there are just really appealing compared to DraftKings, and the small forward and power forward positions aren't that strong. And then Thomas Bryant is one of my favorite tournament plays tonight, especially on DraftKings where he has power forward eligibility. I have him projected for 19 minutes, but he's averaging like 1.2 points per minute. So at 3,900 in this spot, projected at 19 minutes, I still haven't projected for almost 24 DraftKings points, which would be perfectly fine at that price. But we've seen in the past that there are some games where he plays well and he gets more minutes over Bobby Portis. It's also a Chicago front court that essentially is playing Lopez and Felicio at center. So it's a bigger front court where, Bryant can stay out there. And I don't think people are going to go there. I think he has a higher ceiling than guys like House and I guess not Diallo necessarily, but he definitely does not have a lower ceiling than any of those guys. And he's going to be the lowest owned out of the group. So I love taking a chance on Bryant in tournament lineups.
I like that too. And, talking about minutes being all over the map, this front court has been a kind of tough one to get right at times. If Thomas does come out of the gate hot, we've seen Scott Brooks willing to give him, 20 plus minutes. It's not frequent, but if it happens at this price, he is a guy that produces well over a fantasy point per minute. I like that, Adam. And I think instead of, probably going to Portis, you could go to Bryant at a much cheaper cost when there's a chance that Portis only plays a few more minutes than him tonight anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite. Like I'd said that I felt kind of comfortable not having Embiid because I had him projected for a ton of points and still wasn't getting there. It's kind of the opposite on Bryant. Like I haven't projected for 19 minutes and I'm still getting him in like 20% of my lineups. I don't think he gets less than 19 minutes.
All right. Let's keep it moving here unless you have anyone else from this game you want to talk about.
Nope.
Houston and Memphis at Memphis inside what used to be considered the grindhouse. Now it's, I don't know, the poorhouse. It's been bad. It's been a rough season. No more Marcus Saul. But hey, they kept Mike Conley. Memphis Grizzlies, Adam, at home, 5-point dogs, 215 total, two slow-paced teams. Two teams playing good enough defense. Giannis Antetokounmpo is out. So, like I said, you now have, unless they sign or bring someone on, they've got 8, Adam.
Yeah, so I mean that just completely changes the slate. Yeah, like everyone from Milwaukee is a good play.
Man, that changes a lot. But just throwing it out there, and I am going back to this for a second. Going back there, you have guys like, Trayvon Duval and other guys who are on two-way contracts, but have not been up. Bonzi Colson. So unless they bring somebody up, they've got 8. I don't know.
Right. And yeah, everyone's going to play the Bucks. I don't really know how not to.
Is there anyone I'm missing? Bledsoe, Frazier, Middleton, Connaughton, Snell, Ilyasova, Wilson, Lopez?
I don't have the depth chart in front of me, but that's all that I like. When you said it, I went through and counted the guys that I know are up, and I'm on the same page as you.
Well, all right. Let's get back to it then. Talking Memphis and Houston. No Avery Bradley, which is kind of interesting. I'm willing to give Delon Wright a bump in minutes there. Maybe we see some additional run from Tyler Dorsey. It's possible. What are you doing with the Grizzlies here, if anything?
I'm glad that Giannis news came out before we talked about this, because I thought I was going to have to talk about Tyler Dorsey at 3K, and I still think that he's a viable pivot.
Yeah,
like he's a viable pivot off of Shaq Harrison. But now you're just going to have better value from Milwaukee, so it's a lot easier to get there. Delon Wright, I have it like 30 minutes as well. Holiday, I have it 32. Not that matters because he's just a black hole. But yeah, so much less for me to talk about here now that we have 8 guys on Milwaukee.
By the way, just to backtrack quickly, is there anybody that, like, okay, Bledsoe, Middleton, no question, DJ Wilson now, Connaughton, I mean, those guys are all in play. Is there any? Are you have interest in Lopez? I don't know where you're at on Ilyasova, but you could make a very good argument for 6 of the 8 active players tonight for Milwaukee.
Who's the 7th? Like, so Snell's one of the ones that you're saying no to, right?
And Frazier.
Oh, right, Frazier. Forgot about him. So yeah. Okay, yeah. I would say Frazier's my least favorite, then Snell, and then Ilyasova.
That's what I'm saying.
And then
yeah.
Yep.
Right. All right. Yeah, unless somebody else is, we'll see. By the way, okay, I thought we had some more news there. If we do, we'll be sure to let you know. But is there anyone, you talk Dorsey not having to go there. Do you like Delon Wright?
No, not really.
Do you like anyone from Memphis?
Nope.
Okay. Houston?
Chris Paul at 6,900 on DraftKings.
Yeah.
Other than that, no.
What about Daniel House, though? D'Antoni clearly likes this guy. Eric Gordon's out tonight. Like, he's finding ways to get him minutes. PJ Tucker yesterday played 34 minutes. Daniel House has played 28 or more minutes in every game since he's signed with them. He played 32 minutes last night. I'm assuming he plays around 30 minutes again today, Adam.
I have him at 34. And
oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it makes him a good value play just because of how many minutes he's playing. I have him projected for like 0.7 points per minute, but in 34 minutes, that still makes him a good play. Bad matchup, not someone that I expect to continually produce a ton of fantasy points or anything. So I'm not looking to like jam over the field on him if he's popular, but I still think he's one of the better point per dollar plays. Yeah, I mean,
he played 18 minutes to close out the game yesterday, which was pretty much out of reach midway through the fourth quarter. Look, you can do worse than Daniel House. And we know that D'Antoni wants to give him minutes. That's at least somewhat comforting. Outside of that, you mentioned Chris Paul being dirt cheap. I don't see myself getting the heart in here with a bunch of other high-priced guys I like, not Capella, Tucker, nobody. I don't think there's anybody else for Houston that we really need to get into unless there's someone in mind for you.
Nope.
All right, then. Miami, San Antonio. I'll let you kick this one off, Adam. Spurs 6-point favorites, 211 total. It's the lowest total on the slate, not include. Well, second lowest actually. Knicks, Utah is 209.
Okay, so in my initial crunch on DraftKings, I got like 15% Dwayne Wade, so that's my Miami guy. I got like 15% Derek White, so that's my San Antonio guy. And other than that, I just and Bam is too cheap on DraftKings at 5,100. Outside of that, I really have trouble getting to these guys. Dragic played 29 9 minutes last game, I think it was. I haven't projected for 29 here. It's good to see the minutes there. This just isn't really the slate where I'm looking to take a bunch of Miami guys with their 102 implied total against San Antonio in a really slow game.
Right. The only thing I don't like about Wade, the only thing is he's going to be playing a bunch of minutes with Dragic, who is going to take a lot of ball handling responsibility away from him off the bench. That's the only thing I don't like. But
yeah, that's fair.
But shooting guard's actually not that deep, so I think Wade does make some sense here. Anything for the Spurs?
Getting some Derek White just because he's inexpensive. I haven't projected for about 30 minutes and around the fantasy point per minute, but not a priority or anything, just a cheap price tag.
All right. Yeah, I don't have anything for San Antonio here whatsoever. We've got 2 games to go. We got some good time here. Live Before Lock coming up next, of course. And hey, by the way, we have a ton of March Madness content on the site. We also have a premium March Madness package right now that you can check out on the homepage when you click sign up. To check it out, just click the March Madness, select or filter March Madness, and you'll be able to see the package and everything that's involved. We've got articles. We've got Awesome-O, Alex Baker. You know who he is. We've got his optimal March Madness bracket strategy guide with game theory edition, I should say, a full bracket breakdown, projections, rankings. What else, man? There's plenty. Yeah, there's a lot. The articles, the projections, the rankings. You can check all that out on awesomeo.com and check out the plans on the sign-up page. You can also get a free month, we'll do that first. You can get a free month for you and 2 of your friends if you go over to Twitter, go to the Awesome-O handle, which is awesomeo_com, and check out the pinned tweet. The pinned tweet says this: if you could attend any sporting event, past or present, which would it be? To win a free month for you and 2 of your friends to enter, all you have to do is retweet it and tag 2 of your friends. Tell us which event you'd want to attend and why, and you're automatically entered into our spring break giveaway, where we're giving away a free month's worth of premium content, everything behind paywall, to you and 2 of your friends. And if you want to get 50% off your first month of membership at awesomeo.com, you don't have good luck, you never win in these drawings, but you just want to check it out now, well, we got you. Use the promo code DEEPERDIVE. One word, DEEPERDIVE. When you sign up, select your plan, type in the coupon code DEEPERDIVE, and when you check out, you get 50% off your first month. Bing, bang, boom. It's that easy. And when you do, make sure to say hello to us in the premium Slack chat, where we're talking DFS all day and all night long. That's Deeper Dive, one word, when you sign up on awesomeo.com. Hopefully we'll see you over there. 2 games to go, Adam. OKC, Toronto. We got the Toronto Raptors road dogs here by 4.5 points, matter of fact. OKC favored at home by 4.5, 227 total. Big pace-up game for Toronto. Thunder lead the league in pace, or second in pace since the start of January. What do you make of the Toronto side of the ball, starting with Kawhi Leonard, who's $8,400 on DraftKings? Kyle Lowry is out. Serge Ibaka is back.
Yeah, I like Leonard more tonight than I normally do. Pace-up spot, obviously tough defensive matchup against Paul George, but just more possessions for Leonard. A 32.3% usage rate without Lowry on the floor this year. Should play around 35 minutes. And just really inexpensive at $8,400 on DraftKings and $9,600 on FanDuel. Right now, he's my highest owned small forward on DraftKings. He's my second highest owned small forward on FanDuel behind Daniel House. That'll obviously, or could change based on Milwaukee. But it's just really, really appealing price tags for Leonard, who is someone that I don't look to roster all that often, but it's tough for me to get away from him here.
Yeah, it's absolutely tough to get away from him. I'm trying to figure out what type of ownership we're going to see on Leonard. Lowry being out should certainly bring that up quite a bit. But, right now we only have him around 17% on DraftKings. It's not that high in a spot that I really don't mind against OKC. And then you have Fred VanVleet projected, obviously, for high ownership, $4,700 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Fred VanVleet is $5,300. With Kawhi back, VanVleet's the guy you're going to want to see 32 minutes or so from him here. But it is a pace-up spot. I expect to see quality run from him. And, well, whenever Lowry's out, VanVleet is usually chalk. So I don't think it'll be any different today. Although I'm curious how much cheap Bucks players bring down his ownership, if at all.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting to see. And, I think he's a good value play. He's only 4,700. Even if I project him with his rates alongside Leonard without Lowry on the floor, I still get him at 0.87 points per minute in this spot. And I have him in for about 34 minutes. So in cash games, I think he's a guy that you can feel pretty confident in going to. In tournaments, I'm getting plenty as well. I'm not expecting another, 50-point outburst like we saw last time against the Knicks, but you really don't need that at his price tag. So I think just, pretty easy play.
Agreed. Aside from that, and by the way, of course, Jeremy Lin dropped 20 real points last time, but got some blowout run late in that game. I'm not interested there. I don't see him getting a ton of run. And pretty much everyone else here, Emac says, it's pronounced Fred Van Elite. Sorry, Emac. Literally has a daily contest where he has to play Fred VanVleet every night. I mean, just absurd.
Alonzo Trier out, which I don't know what that does, but it does something.
Actually, that kind of, you would think that actually does a lot. Okay, so
yeah, I just don't know what.
Let's do this. Let's finish this game. Let's finish these games out, and then if we have time, we'll come back to this. Anything else for Toronto?
Pascal Siakam on DraftKings at 6,800 is just still underpriced.
All right, what about OKC? Russell Westbrook. It's funny, when I first started writing out the deeper dive, doing the research, I wasn't really on Westbrook. And then I went back and I said, wait a second. That's 10-3, not 11-3. I honestly, I just assumed that it was 11 because 10-3, I don't care who he's facing, where he's facing. 10-3 for Westbrook. Another thing too, Adam, whether you buy into this or not, they are in sixth place in the West. They're literally 1.5 games out of the fourth seed and a half game from being the eighth seed and having to face Golden State in the first round, or possibly the Nuggets. Every game down the stretch is big for the Thunder. I'm putting Westbrook around 36 minutes. Like, how at 10-3 do you not love Russell Westbrook, even if I don't care if he's facing Toronto?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there. I mean, he just gives you such a high floor for that price tag. We know the upside that he has, like he's capable of going for, 65 or 70, but he just gives you such a high floor. Like he very rarely disappoints there. And the only argument really against him is that, he's too cheap, but so is everyone on DraftKings. So it's kind of relative to everyone else. But, I'm getting to a lot of Westbrook. It's just a matter of if I give him 37 minutes, he becomes like my second highest owned guy. If I give him 36, he becomes not my second highest owned guy, but still in a lot of my lineups.
All right. What about George? Anybody? Jeremy Grant was a guy we talked about the other game on the deep dive. He came through in a big way. But of course, that was with Westbrook sidelined. Now they've got mostly everybody back. Any interest in George here or Jeremy Grant or anybody else outside of Westbrook?
I like George on FanDuel more than on DraftKings just because of the roster construction. And kind of big news here that I don't know if we'll have before lock, but might go completely overlooked is Nerlens Noel being questionable, I think has a big impact on Jeremy Grant. If Noel is in, Grant's not playing any center. If Noel's out, Grant is the backup center. He played 40 minutes last game without Noel, got a bunch of run at the 5. So that I think actually has a pretty big impact. If we get news Noel is in, then I'm much less interested in Grant than I will be if he's out.
Okay. By the way, Matt Velasquez, Milwaukee Bucks beat reporter, saying from what I've heard, Bonzi Colson is in Cleveland with the Bucks. Have to assume he'll be active with these injuries. Throwing that out there, he just reported this 9 minutes ago, so we'll see what's going on with that. I don't know how big of a difference it makes, but throwing it out there just in case. And is that it for this one? We'll go on to the last game here, Adam.
Yes.
Portland and Dallas. I'm going to throw a couple figures out at you, and I'll just let you run. So with McCollum, and I know you actually talked about this last show, but with McCollum off the floor this year, first of all, Terry Stotts has not staggered Lillard and McCollum nearly as much as he did last year. So believe it or not, Lillard's only played 445 minutes without McCollum this year. 39.9% usage rate, 35.4% assist rate, 1.58 fantasy points per minute. And as far as Nurkic goes, you have a 36.4% usage rate with McCollum off the floor this season. Go ahead.
Yeah, pretty crazy numbers for both guys. If you go back to the start of last season and put Nurkic and Lillard both on the floor without McCollum, Lillard has a 30.7% usage rate, but his assist percentage jumps up to about 38%. Nurkic has a 30.4% usage rate. So I'm going with those numbers because it gives me a ton of both guys. And obviously you're not going to get a 38% usage rate from Lillard while Nurkic also has a 36% usage rate if they're playing alongside each other as they will for most of their minutes. So two of my favorite plays on the entire slate, especially on DraftKings where Lillard's 8,800 and Nurkic is 7,100. It's tougher, obviously, on FanDuel where Lillard's 10.5 and Nurkic is, an $8,900 center or whatever. Still getting to these guys, but on DraftKings, two of my highest owned guys.
All right, me too. I mean, the price on Nurkic on DraftKings is just silly. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I don't know how you get away from that. I truly don't. Do you look anywhere else for Portland outside of Lillard and Nurkic?
Not with any sort of frequency, no.
All right. What about the other side of this game? Dallas, Doncic 99 on FanDuel, point guard, small forward on DraftKings 8,900.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Luka here. I don't like him quite as much as I did this morning on the show with Josh when he was my second favorite player on DraftKings. I finished, projecting out the rest of the slate, and obviously things changed. But I still think that he's a really good play for a couple of reasons. For one, I expect his ownership to be relatively low because of all the other options on the slate, and the fact that Dallas has a low implied total. There's a good chance that they get their asses kicked in Portland. But knowing how much Lillard and Nurkic I'm going to have, I like the idea of being overweight on Luka, because it just makes it so it's a little bit, the narrative is a little bit easier for me to profit on the night. If this game stays close and I get full ceiling games from Lillard and Nurkic, it's probably because Doncic is keeping it close. And on top of that, I don't care who he's facing. I don't care what the total is. This is a $10,000 plus player who's $8,900 with guard and forward eligibility on DraftKings and with shooting guard eligibility at a weak position on FanDuel. So getting to I'll be overweight on Luka here. Behind him, there's not a whole lot. I think Finney-Smith plays mid-30s in minutes without Maxi Kleber. I think that there's better value on the slate, though.
Yeah, so do I. Doncic is really the only one that I'd be looking at here. Outside of that, I have no problem just pretty much ignoring Dallas for the most part. It's the only 10 p.m. game, by the way. All right, we have a few seconds here before we hand it over to the Live Before Lock crew. And as you know, we appreciate it, and it helps us out mucho. Hit us with a thumbs up if you appreciate this content. You want to see more and you like it. Well, like the video, hit us with that thumbs up, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well so you always know when new content's going to drop. Alonzo Trier is out now. So basically, Adam, as we finish up this show, you have no Dennis Smith, no Ntilikina, and no Trier, which leaves you with Emmanuel Mudiay, Kadeem Allen, and John Jenkins.
Yeah. So Trier, looking at the rotations, he generally subs in for Knox, and then Knox subs back in for Dotson. Dotson's already playing huge minutes. So I think it solidifies Dotson's minutes. You probably get a few more minutes for Knox, and then John Jenkins gets back into the normal rotation. So I don't think it has a huge impact on our rosters.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us. As always, good luck. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the Deeper Dive. I think we got a 6-game slate. Stick around. Live Before Lock coming up next. Well, don't stick around. Go click on the Live Before Lock link, which we're going to drop in chat. Good luck, fellas. We'll see you back here soon.